in focal Please.
Thank you, Chairpersons, for this introduction, and I'm honored to present in front of this august gathering. I come from India. So these are my disclosures. It's already an accepted manuscript in Neurology India, and I am sincerely thankful to Professor Kanchan Mukherjee, who guided me in all these cases. So if you look at the history, the Gamma knife was actually started for the movement disorders in the psychosurgery, and from 68 to 82, 762 patients were treated, out of which 5 were for the Parkinson's, and somehow the lesioning went into the disrepute with the introduction of first the levodopa and second then the stimulation surgery. So before DBS, it was actually a gold standard, and then in the current practice, the stereotactic lesioning is resurfacing because of the identification of long-term complications and practical limitations of the DBS surgeries that demand an alternative rescue treatment measure in the wake of non-suitable candidates for DBS or the DBS failure. I'm personally a fan of lesioning, and I found that actually it's a thing which is getting into a sabbatical because of the non-support from the industries. We are currently living in the era 3. We are better equipped with the imaging techniques and with the experience, and this is the post-DBS era now. So I'm going to present a short series of 5 patients with 1 good case and 1 bad case. So this was a 24-year-old male with a disabling right-sided hemidystonia. He had a crippled life. His MRI was normal. He had suffered a history. He has suffered a birth asphyxia, and he was practically dependent on his family for all his support. So in this case, we targeted with the left posterior ventral pallidotomy with a 140 gray with a perfection model, and somehow the lesion, an impressive lesion which gets created on the scans, didn't appear in this case. This is the 2 years follow-up MRI, but the patient had a remarkable improvement. He gradually started improving, and by the end of 6 years, he had a complete volitional recovery. He could get married, and there was nearly around 68% improvement in his whole complaint. So that was a very good improvement in this case. The case which didn't do well was a 44-year-old male with a primary generalized torsional dystonia, more on the right side. This is his pre-Gamma knife video. It was pretty difficult for him. We targeted the both pallidum in the single setting, but unfortunately on the left side he was a hyper-responder, and that patient developed a right-sided hemiparesis. This was a large lesion created in this case, so the patient developed right-sided hemiparesis. So out of 5 patients, actually 2 patients made an excellent recovery, which were the primary dystonias, and 1 patient showed an initial improvement. Later on it just plateaued, and 1 patient didn't do good well. So if we look at the dystonia, among the different categories of the dystonias, the generalized and the hemidystonias are the ones which are mostly crippling, and these are the ones which can get improvement with the lesioning with the pallidum. The task-based dystonias are usually the career-terminating events in some young patients, and in those patients I favor the viothalamotomy. So what happened to the posterior ventral pallidotomy with the introduction of the stimulation? This was very well written by the Robert E. Gross. If we look at the stimulation and the lesioning surgeries, especially in the countries which are resource-stricken, like in mine, the basic difference, as we all know, of the irreversibility and unilateral lesion. But with the stimulation surgeries, there is a chance of recurring cost, and the initial cost of the treatment is pretty high. And on the downside, we do not have any intra-procedural monitoring in the cases of the lesioning. So is pallidotomy not useful for the dystonias? Actually, this was a wrong interpretation, because in case of the pallidotomy PD, the superiority of the palatal DBS over pallidotomy was scientifically proven in several studies. However, GPI DBS was introduced in the management of dystonias without scientific comparison with the pallidotomy and with an assumption that the DBS could be better. So Gross reported that the bilateral pallidotomy is similar to GPI DBS in effectiveness and safety for dystonia, and that pallidotomy was not rejected because of the lack of effectiveness or safety. The 2 papers which actually put a nail in the GK pallidotomy were by the Duma and the Friedman, because they reported a very high complication rate with the GK pallidotomy, but the subsequent papers were not that bad. It's a time-honored question, like a patient who is a 25 years old male who has to live 60 more years. Is DBS always justified in them? Because these patients would need a better, more current, frequent battery changes, and it puts a significant financial burden on them. And we have to strike a balance between the cure and the control, because most of the times we are just able to make a control with the DBS. It's not going to cure him, and in the long term it's going to fail. So the three basic questions: is it safe, is it effective, and how is it in the comparison to the other techniques? Because as I can do all the three techniques, we have to decide, compare between the techniques. So as far as safety is concerned, if you look at the paper of Juma, we find that he reported 50% complication. It was a widely criticized paper because he used large collimators, earlier software, double ISO center and procedure was obsolete. Similarly, in the paper by the Mikil, it was 200 K, which was a pretty high dose, which was bound to produce a complication. And the later on studies by the Pittsburgh group have shown that it was just a 5% per patient basis and 4% per lesion basis complication, which is acceptable to the other techniques too. So we can conclude that gamma knife pallidotomy is safe and effective treatment for PD. Both radiofrequency pallidotomy and GK pallidotomy produce similar improvements. Gamma knife pallidotomy remains less invasive than radiofrequency pallidotomy and prevents the problems and expenses associated with the DBS, and it is a useful rescue procedure which should be in your kitty. Definitely, a pallidotomy has a higher complication rate than the thalamotomy because of the inherent higher radiosensitivity of pallidum and the iron concentration, and it's a difficult lesion to visualize also. But you can try a bilateral pallidotomy in a single sitting, but the thalamotomy has to be a staged procedure. And we need to have a relook because now we have better technology, better imaging, where we can actually identify our target. And with the 3 decades experience with the stimulation, we know what are the different targets there and what we can do, which we can target and which we shouldn't target, even with the lesioning. So these are now the current different studies which have shown very good result with the gamma knife. So to conclude, DBS is safer than lesioning in view of its reversibility and adjustability, yet it comes at a cost of economic burden, psychological implications, and the control rather than cure of the disease. And for these, to countering these, lesioning still has a chance. The GPI is a difficult target for the functional radiosurgeons because of the frequent inability to visualize, technical difficulty in sparing the organs at risk, which are out of the optic tract and the internal capsule, and there is a non-forgiving nature of its neighbors, and there is no intraprocedural guidance. The target in the lesioning is actually different from the target which you use for the stimulation surgeries, and this has to be taken care in the mind while you are doing a radiofrequency or gamma pallidotomy. And it is especially difficult in the secondary ones with the calcifications and when we have an atrophic DPI. So radiofrequency lesioning, which is now considered in most of the part of the world as an orphan drug because there is no promotion of the lesioning, either gamma knife or radiofrequency pallidotomy. There are no keynote or the industry sponsored lectures over it. So this is thing which has to be promoted because you definitely have a patient cohort which needs it. And in countries with the limited resources, it has a potential option. As there is no definition for the remission and cure of dystonia, it would not be an exaggeration to say that DBS may control but not cure dystonia, while with the lesioning, we sometimes have a chance of curing it. We are promoting it in a way, so it's available on the osteotactic.ic also. Thank you very much.